Hello and welcome to the Daily Royal. My name is Shelby and I have been a royal watcher for the past 10 years. In this podcast, I talk about the daily events of 7 of the European monarchies. So I talk about Belgium, the UK, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. I upload Monday through Friday with occasional bonus episodes here and there. Today we are going to be talking about all of the events from Tuesday, December 14th and Wednesday, December 15th of 2021. And amazingly, we actually have some things to talk about. Some of them are not great things to talk about, like they're not going to be the most fun conversations. But other things were okay. And now there's nothing scheduled for the next 2 days. We'll see if things happen. I expect some Christmas cards still in the next 2 days. So I know the big releases are like Belgium and Spain. And my guess is those will come out anytime in the next 3 days.
Belgium.
Spain usually releases them on Fridays. Belgium usually releases them the third Friday in December, so that's Friday. So we'll see. Just fingers crossed there on some things, some new photos. And then this podcast will go on a 2-week break for the holidays. So the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's, the weeks before those holidays, will both be off, and then I will return on January 1st with speeches, and January 2nd and 3rd probably with the 2021 highlights episodes, and then we'll see from there. January is a long time away, even though it's really not. It feels like a long time away, and I obviously don't know what the calendars are going to look like, but I expect to be back somewhere around the 6th. So we'll see. So that is a little housekeeping. Stay tuned for more there. So we are going to jump right in today. We are starting with the Belgian royal family. So there has been no anything from the Belgian royal family over the past 2 days. The one thing I'm still waiting on, and this honestly could happen over the break, is the Christmas concert that is held every year at the Royal Palace. Now I know because we're in a weird spot with the pandemic that this probably will be a zero audience type of situation, but the royal family always does a brief appearance, so I expect that, but I'm not sure, that's a holiday tradition for the Belgian people, so at least I think, so we'll see if that shows up, but that's the only thing that I'm really expecting of them for the rest of the month, and hopeful for. Other than that, nothing new to report there. Certainly nothing on the calendar. They do have an event next week, but again, we'll be on a break. So, but they do have an event. They're going to visit a charity organization. So anyway, that is the update on Belgium. There is no update really. So we are going to move over to the British royal family. United Kingdom. In the UK, it has actually been a busy couple of days. So mainly from Charles and Camilla, the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall. They have definitely been the busier of the group, really. But we'll start with yesterday's events. So Tuesday morning, they visited the Wandsworth Food Bank to meet with volunteers and thank them for their work. And of course, especially during the holiday season, in a season that is harder than normal, and for the second year in a row, because the pandemic is still a very real thing, and certainly a little terrifying. And so people still need assistance with food security. And so food banks are, of course, just a little more relied on right now. So that was like a little nice holiday visit. And then afterwards, Charles visited a vaccination center in Lambeth to thank the NHS staff and volunteers for all their work in doing vaccinations and now boosters. And so this happened a week ago or so, but Charles and Camilla both revealed that they have gotten their third doses, their boosters. So that was just a nice little thing. They also have sent out a message supporting vaccination, which is, again, not surprising and super important just due to the ongoing situation. I shared on Sunday, I think, my vaccination experience, and I don't think I even talked about it on Monday because I was pretty well fine. I was a little more tired than normal. But then it's Wednesday. I have 0 arm pain. Everything is fine. I bounced back pretty quickly, but man, that first day of vaccination for me is rough. This one was probably the least rough that I've had. Although the onset of my specific symptoms, was faster. It went away a lot faster too. So that was nice. But yeah, that is what was going on Tuesday. And then we get to Wednesday. So today, Queen Elizabeth held a meeting with the Sultan of Oman, who is on a official visit to the UK. He and his wife were both at Windsor today. And then the Sultan himself met with Charles afterwards, so met with the Prince of Wales. So that was a big thing. Also this morning, the Prince of Wales held an investiture ceremony at Windsor Castle, which is where the investitures seem to be taking place right now. So, which isn't that surprising to me, because Buckingham Palace is kind of being renovated, because the Queen isn't in residence there. It makes even more sense to do a lot more renovations. And then I think the other ones are usually held at St. James's Palace, but that's also undergoing a lot of renovation right now. The members of the royal family who have their offices there, those have been relocated temporarily to, I think, Buckingham Palace. But then, of course, now with the pandemic, most of their staffs are probably working virtually, at least I would imagine. So that is a little bit of behind the scenes knowledge that I have. I don't have a lot of behind the scenes knowledge, and this is all public information. It's not like I have a source or anything like that. It's public information. You just have to find it. So all of the palaces are kind of just undergoing some renovations right now, which is pretty standard, especially, for the older ones. It's pretty standard to have these renovations going, kind of on a consistent basis. So anyway, that is what was happening for Charles. And then also today, the Duchess of Cornwall hosted one of her annual events, which is where she invites children who are involved with some of the charities she works with, which are typically children hospice charities. She invites the children to come to Clarence House, which is her official residence, their official residence, hers and Charles's, to decorate a Christmas tree there. It's a lovely event. Last year, they didn't have it because of the pandemic, and the UK had kind of entered a secondary lockdown situation, where you just weren't genuinely supposed to be traveling with other people. and so, or like seeing other people, and so they couldn't have that event. But they did something virtually. I remember them doing, it was really cute. But then today it was able to be held in person, which I thought was lovely. So that is what was going on in the British royal family. Unsure of what to expect as of right now for the rest of the year. We already have Christmas cards, which is great. Everything else will probably be next week. Christmas lunch is next week, if they even have it. Christmas lunch and Sandringham is obviously on Christmas. Again, that's a maybe, we'll see what happens kind of thing. But yeah, it'll just be a lovely holiday season, and hopefully we will see some more of the British royal family, including some Cambridge kids. And yeah, so that's what's going on there. So we are going to move over now to the Dutch royal house, because there have been no events in Denmark. However, there was an update today that I just want to briefly talk about. So today it was announced, the Danish royal household announced that Crown Princess Mary has tested positive for COVID. She is self-isolating for the recommended amount of time in Denmark and until her symptoms are gone. They are reportedly milder symptoms, which is great. But she has tested positive for COVID, which just sucks. Like, I hate it. But anyway, so wishing her a good, speedy recovery. And obviously, like, being separated from her family is challenging for as long as an isolation period is. And so just wishing her well for that, and hopefully she can just binge watch some TV, and not feel too sick. So that is what was going on, in Denmark. So I expect probably a change in Christmas plans, from them, as Queen Margrethe was supposed to be spending Christmas Eve with them. But I think it's a 10-day isolation period, in Denmark, so that brings us right up until Christmas Day. So, at least officially, I maybe expect a change, but we'll see, what happens there. It's just really sad. So that is what is going on in Denmark. So now let's go ahead and move over to the Netherlands. The Netherlands. In the Netherlands, there were a couple of events today that I want to talk about. Also today, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm probably going to watch it later tonight. But tonight was the Christmas concert with more music in the classroom, that Queen Maxima attended last week. So that was aired tonight. So I will probably watch that a little bit later, provided I can find it afterwards. It's always a little harder to do, but hopefully I can figure that out, and watch it. I know she attended, and I think she made a special appearance of some sort, so we'll see what that is. But that's a little update there. But then also today we had a couple of different things. So if you remember, in March, we had a conversation about the Dutch elections, because the entire government resigned of the Netherlands due to a little bit of corruption scandal going on in one of the ministries, and just not great situation. And so they called for new elections, and those were held. And here we are 7 months later. Certainly not a record of the countries I talk about, but it was a record for the Netherlands. Today, King Willem-Alexander met with the informers of the government formation, who presented their final report. So basically an informer, we've talked about this a little bit, but it was a year ago with Belgium. It's the same sort of concept, but we'll address it here. So this is basically where the informers are tasked with the negotiations to form a new government, because these are multi-party countries that, if you live in the States, we have a majority two-party system. So you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. We do have other parties. They have never, well, they have one time become like a potential major party. But like they have never been where we have three parties in our government. We have two, and then we have a few independents, who typically lean one way or the other. Like they lean Democrat and then run for president, as a Democrat, Bernie Sanders. And then we also have like some independents who run, Republican, and that's fine. But they're quote independent, so they can kind of go either way. But like in the Netherlands, there are a lot of parties that get support. And so they had to form they have to form a coalition government, which is the joining of like multiple parties to kind of come together to a discussion. And that is what the informers are tasked with doing. And then because of their name, they are also tasked with informing the nation and the king of their process. So today they've been having ongoing phone meetings with King Willem-Alexander for the past 7 months. And today they met in person to present their final report, which is a coalition government and gives the current Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, a 4th term in office. So, fine, whatever. I don't have I don't really know him. I don't know his politics. It's fine. So he will start his 4th term. I don't know when that will start. We will see what involvement King Willem-Alexander has from there. But really, his job is very minimal. He gets like monthly updates on the formation, and I don't even know if it was that often, but he got updates over phone. And then the final presentation today, which was also delivered in like a press conference kind of deal as well. So that was King Willem-Alexander's event. And then also today, Queen Maxima had an event. So she did a working visit. So she visited different catering companies that were run, like small business catering companies, and the entrepreneurs behind that. And the focus of this was to learn about how the pandemic has affected their industry, and them specifically over the past now 2 years. Because my head goes straight to a wedding caterer. I don't know why that's what my head goes to. It just does. But like, for a while, weddings were just obviously getting canceled. Like big, massive parties, weddings. And then they were happening, but they were still small. So like typical weddings, and again, I look at this from everything from a US perspective, because that's the perspective I have, are large. Sometimes they can be, they're catered for like 100, 200 or more people. I know 100 is like a small wedding, but like up to a lot of people. And, this pandemic has kind of created a very small wedding situation here in the US. And which is great, fine, wonderful. And so, I am sure that has had a huge economic impact on the situation, for these small business entrepreneurs, caterers. So wonderful pointing that out. And so, yeah, that is the update from the Dutch royal family. They have nothing scheduled till January 12th at this point. That does not mean that will be their next event. So that was their next event on Monday when I finished recording, and then they had things on Wednesday. So like there could still be some pop-up events. We'll see what happens. But that is what was going on there. So now we are going to go over to the Spanish royal family. But again, before we do that, just have an update from Norway, which is that Crown Prince Haakon is in quarantine, in self-isolation quarantine situation due to exposure to COVID. I don't know that he has been tested, but he has no symptoms. So his events have been canceled. Crown Princess Mette Marit is doing an event that he was supposed to do tomorrow. She's visiting a vaccination center. So yeah, Crown Prince Haakon is in quarantine, which is unfortunate. But hopefully everything will be fine. And he presents with no symptoms long term, or any COVID, fingers crossed. So that is what was going on there. So now we are going to go ahead and move over to the Spanish royal family. Spain. In Spain, the country that never takes days off, really, and when they do, I'm like, wait, what is going on? They had several events over the past few days. So yesterday, King Felipe attended a lunch celebrating the 15th anniversary of the El Economista newspaper, which is, the literal translation is The Economist, which we have in the US. We have the Economist newspaper. Maybe it's a magazine. I don't know. I've never read it. I don't read the Spanish one either. I typically stick with El País for my Spanish newspaper and like their TV station. And then their tabloids because they're fun. But only like the royal section of their tabloids because obviously. But anyway, so I don't read The Economist or El Economista, but this was their 15th anniversary. El Economista specifically has several international publications. So they also have an El Economista in like Argentina and Mexico. I think there are like 15 in total that all are publicized. So it was a celebration of all of those. I found it strange that it was a lunch, and then I remembered that we're in the middle of a pandemic, so like an evening gala, probably not the best plan. Although then today they were at an evening gala, but it's fine. So anyway, so they King Felipe attended that and gave a speech talking about the importance of journalism and journalism as the like touchstone for the nation, which is of course true in most democracy free countries, and also in non-free countries. If you can find independent journalism, that's fantastic. And so he talked about that, and then that brings us to today. So this afternoon, Felipe attended the National Young Entrepreneur Award, which celebrates Spanish entrepreneurs who are 40 or younger. So you have to be under 41, which is specifically given out to business owners and creators who have been able to generate jobs and contribute to the country of Spain in their work, because this was like the 18th or so, which Spain has pretty much been in a like economic kind of disaster since then. Spain is an anomaly that I won't get into, but like, it's a very odd thing to talk about such an ancient country, because while the country of Spain itself is very old and has been around forever, this version is fairly new. It is like, let's see, the Constitution just celebrated its 43rd anniversary. So, it's about that new. It's a new country. Modern Spain is. So, there are just weird things that go along with that. And part of it is, the job situation in Spain for traditional jobs is pretty limited. Not impossible, but not great. And so something like this is really important to, especially for young entrepreneurs, to create jobs and such, and contribute to the country in terms of like taxes, essentially, but also like increasing employment rates and all of that really helps the economy of Spain as well. So that's a big piece. And also just like the culture around Spain, like for Spaniards to, what is the word that I'm looking for? The buy-in. The buy-in is not the word I'm looking for, but like to have people really bought into modern Spain is kind of important. So that was this afternoon's event. And then this evening, King Felipe and Queen Letizia attended a gala hosted by the Spanish Olympic Committee. I know I just railed on galas like 2 minutes ago, but we're moving beyond that. Still, Spain is also an anomaly in how it handles COVID. Masks are still required at all times, but like bigger events happen all the time. It's just weird. But I try not to judge royals on the standards of me, but rather on like the rules and regulations of their country, and their appearance to the Spanish people. Like, I try not to be like, I would never go to a gala. Like, are you kidding me? In the middle of a pandemic? Who would do that? I think that, but I don't ever actually like judge them for that. I definitely think that, but it's not a critique because I'm not a Spaniard. 1, 2, I don't know every single rule and regulation. 3, like, it's none of my business. Again, I'm not a Spaniard. So when I live there, maybe I'll have more of an opinion. Until then, I do not. I think things and then I move on. However, if they were to violate like their own country's rules, I may have an opinion. And do frequently, but Felipe and Letizia don't do that ever. So anyway, they attended this gala hosted by the Spanish Olympic Committee to honor the 2020 Tokyo athletes, the medalists of the games. So like they did a presentation kind of for each medalist. It was a very cute thing to do. King Felipe and Queen Letizia presented some awards to the gold medalists of the games. It was just like a nice little way of bringing the celebration of the Olympics that you would typically have in the host city of the Olympics back home for people to enjoy, because these athletes had no one really there rooting for them. It was a closed Olympics, essentially. Like, a lot of people just didn't get in, couldn't go, families couldn't go, things like that. So they were able to have this gala thing that was televised. Aside from like the athletes and like the government officials and the king and queen, there weren't like an excessive amount of people there. There were still a lot of people there, but it wasn't excessive. So that was a really lovely event. That was the last event for Felipe and Letizia this week. We'll see if they have anything next week. their calendars only come out once a week, so we'll wait till Friday for that. Christmas card, probably this week. I'm thinking tomorrow or Friday, maybe Saturday. Apparently last year it came out on a Saturday, which I didn't remember, but like, okay. So that we'll see, hopefully a Christmas card soon. If we're back to the normal pattern, it should be a full family Christmas card. It also could just be of the girls. We'll see. So yeah, that's the update in Spain. Like I said, they have no events scheduled over the next 2 days. If things pop up, we'll talk about them in the episode that goes up on Saturday, but I doubt anything will go on there. So let's go ahead now and move over to the Swedish royal family. Sweden. In Sweden, King Carl Gustaf traveled to Dubai to attend the 2020 World Expo, and if this sounds familiar, it's because a month and a half ago, King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima did the exact same thing, to visit the, for them, it was the Dutch pavilion. To King Carl Gustaf, it was the Swedish pavilion, so he officially opened it, inaugurated it, and then was able to tour it. I think he really only visited the Swedish pavilion. I didn't see any photos and I didn't read anything about him at the UAE pavilion, which is the host country, but I don't know. It just wasn't in the Swedish write-up of the event. So he, I think, arrived yesterday and then spent today visiting, and then I think that's it. But that was very nice. So Queen Sylvia was also supposed to go. However, I think she had a cold. No COVID, but a cold. And so she did not go because, of course, you know, as we are right now, anytime you're feeling under the weather, don't go anywhere. Like, let that be just like a general rule of thumb. If you're feeling under the weather in a time when a global pandemic is raging, just don't go anywhere. Like, don't be around people unnecessarily. So she was able to cancel the trip, so she did. So King Carl Gustaf went alone to Abu Dhabi to visit. So that is what was going on in Sweden. I think that's the only thing going on. I know they have some other things that are like maybe happening on the calendar, but they're not sharing about them, so we'll see. But that is what was going on in Sweden, which brings us to the end of this episode. I will be back on Saturday. I will upload on Saturday. It will be posted on Saturday. I'm recording on Friday. Saturday and Sunday will be my last days on social media and online, at least posting wise. I may still watch, but I will be doing a lot of behind the scenes work, preparing all the things that go up at the beginning of the year. So, stay tuned for those. I will be, my New Year's Day is coming back to work. So, you know, that'll be lovely. And, yeah, we'll just go into the new year strong. But with that, I will end this episode and I will talk to you all on Saturday. Have a fantastic couple of days. Bye.